Namaste guys, welcome back to Filmy Bites with UV, a show where we talk about some wonderful filmmakers, review and rate their work. But before we start, I want you to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can get all updates as we post them. With that note, without any further ado, let's get right into the show. Today let's start our show with a Telugu emotional short film hosted on Dope Studio Vizag YouTube channel and with the screen time of 6 minutes 47 seconds. The first movie that we are going to review in our show is Snehithudu. The meaning of Snehithudu is friends in English. The movie basically starts with this fellow who is selling flowers to save money to get back to Sri Lanka where he belongs, and we see this other guy who accidentally bumps into this flower seller. Though at the beginning the guy reacts very rudely, but soon he understands that there is no mistake of this flower seller and it was just an accident. To make it up, the guy buys flowers from this fellow to help him. When this guy turns around and starts walking, the flower seller notices a check. He then picks it up and hands it over to this guy. That is when they both sit and starts talking, and within the conversation they understand that they both belong to the same place, that is Sri Lanka. Now what will happen next? What is the story of this other guy? How will this friendship grow, and what is this friendship going to result in is the rest of the story. Now moving on to the technical part. Written and directed by Mr. Arvind, the movie is an emotional social messaging drama. I really appreciate the skills updated by Mr. Arvind. He really improved a lot. I see some remarkable differences from his past movies and this movie. But then, when we talk about filmmaking, I'm sure he has a bit more to improvise. For an example, attention to detail plays a great role when we are talking about filmmaking. Here are a few things that I have noticed in this movie which the maker should have given more attention to. Number one, the characteristics or the attire. When we are talking about the flower seller who is saving money to go back to Sri Lanka, I really doubt the attire really fits that characteristic. I really think that you should have worked a bit more on the attire of this particular person, the looks, or exactly the character design of this particular person, which I see you didn't do. Until a point of time, I thought this fellow was distributing flowers and hence they are giving some message related to this particular story. But then that was not your story. The second character walks with a blazer in his hand and with a very big check. And he claims to be a company's owner. Somewhere it was not really that convincing with the attire he is, the location he is, and the way he is behaving. I really think that you should have worked a bit more on that particular characteristic and design of this character. Number 3, the backstory. The backstory of these two characters belongs to Sri Lanka, and we see Sri Lanka has two major languages. One is Sinhalese and another one is Tamil. It was very important that you could have implemented a little slang or maybe the language itself so that audience may be convinced that these people are from same place. Where they are talking in Telugu constantly, at least the slang of Telugu could have been a bit different. That would have convinced audience much more and make them believe that they are from a different place. And another major point that I think is very important is when these two people or these two strangers, no matter where they belong to, if they discover that they have a common language that they can speak in, I think it is very common that we start speaking in a local language which they belong to. In this case, if they would have spoken at least a word or line in Tamil or Sinhalese, it would have been much more easy and it would have been much more refreshing to see that scene. All these things that I just told may look very simple and silly, but then the impact that these points are going to leave on your movie is remarkable. Audience will really connect to your movie very soon, and these things are the things that will really showcase how keen are you on your script. I really hope that we can see some of these implementation in your next movie. Moving on to camera and editing. Cinematography and editing is done by Mr. Raj Babu Shah, which is decent. However, even in this movie, he chose to keep his camera on tripod, and there were very less experimentation or moment shots that I could notice. They had a huge scope for experimentation, but then they chose to play it safe. Most of the scenes had very burnt out backgrounds, which could have been avoided if only they could have changed the angle. However, the film had some very nice cuts and transitions. The proper editing really enhanced the feel that they wanted to show their audience on screen. However, if we are talking about color, I was really not satisfied. Most of the times I felt the color was too dry or desaturated. A bit more saturation and colorful visuals would have made this movie look a bit more pleasant. To sum up, the movie had a great message to deliver, but then the makers were too much into the emotions and forgot to give their attention to the details. To sum up, the movie had a great message to deliver, but then the makers were totally into the emotional field that they forgot to give their attention to the details. If only they can implement attention to the details, I'm sure they're going to make some heart-touching movies for their audience. Wishing them all the best. Here at Filmy Bites with UV, I rate this film a 2-star out of 5. All the best.
Snehithudu. It's a film which revolves around two characters. One a flower vendor and another one a business person. So what happens is when these two strangers meet with a small accident which happens, like the business person dashes over the vendor who is selling the flowers, and they have a conversation between themselves. What is it? What is the outcome of that conversation is the story. Well, the storyline is simple. The narration level was simple as well. However, they could have concentrated on a little bit of sound and few dialogue deliveries were not that much up to the mark. So those were the few things which they could have concentrated. Little bit of color corrections and playing with some angles with the camera, which are few basic things which can be worked out, and that was, believe me, there was a scope of these kind of things which the director could have ventured off, and if he would have, this could have gone to a next level. With this, I rate this short film a 2 out of 5. Good luck.
The next movie in our review list is SharathSaranya. SharathSaranya is a Tamil short film with a screen time of 7 minutes 8 seconds. The film is hosted on Friends Movie Maker's YouTube channel. The movie basically starts with this young man who is waiting for his girlfriend's call on his birthday. He wants her to be the first one to wish him on his birthday, hence he is a bit desperate to get her call. He only gets her call later in the day, when she tells him that she was busy in her office and could not call him, apologizes for her mistake and tells him that he is going to come and meet him in person and ask him where can she come to meet him. It is then the guy says that his parents are not at home and she can come to his house in the evening. Now, will she come? What happens when they meet? How is the story gonna end? Is the rest of the story. Moving on to the technicality of the film is written and directed by Mr. Venkat Murugan. The film, which was supposed to be an emotional soft drama love story, initially starts with a flavor of suspense thriller, then navigates us towards the horror, and ends with a very unrealistic, unlogical ending which will really disconnect the audience from the core movie. Now, moving on to the camera of the film, cinematographer Mr. Jivanandam did his part. However, I see that they have to work a lot on those dark shots. I see the movie makers did not really experiment with the light, angles, motion, or in fact, they really chose to play it very safe, which did not work out with the movie. I really suggest the whole team to work a lot on their lighting techniques, which will really enhance the feel of their film. I hope they implement these things in their next movie. Now, moving on to the editing. Editing is done by SG Studios Kadalur is fine. However, I see most of the dark shots were not really balanced, and really those dynamic details were not even registering in your frame. That really will disconnect your audience from getting connected to the movie. Cuts of the film were okay, but then if you are talking about the color of the film, I think they should have used more cold colors. That would have helped audience to get a bit more involved into this movie. In short, the film is good, but after a point of time, the film becomes so logicless and the limited technicality fails to impress audience or get audience involved in the movie. Storyline, in short, the story of the film is good, but after a point of time it becomes very logicless, and with the limited technicality it fails to impress its audience. But then I really appreciate the efforts of this team. Wishing them all the best for their next movie. Here at Filmy Bites with UV, I rate this movie a 1.5 out of 5.
SharathSaranya. இது ஒரு ஹாரர் கான்செப்ட் ஆர் ஹாரர் காமெடி கான்செப்ட் சொல்லலாம். என்னன்னா, ஒரு லவ்வர், அதாவது சரத்ங்கிற ஒரு பையன் வந்து அவனோட பர்த்டேக்காக வெயிட் பண்ணிகிட்ருக்கான். 12 மணி ஆகுது. அவன் லவ்வர் ஃபஸ்ட்டு ஃபோன் பண்ணி விஷ் பண்ணுவான்ட்டு ஒரு ஒரு ஆன்சைட்டியோடு உட்காந்துட்டு வெயிட் பண்ணிக்கிட்டு. ஆனால் அவங்க ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் ஃபஸ்ட்டு கால் பண்ணுறான், கடுப்பாயிடுறான். அதுக்கப்புறமா அஃப்கோர்ஸ் சரண்யா திரும்பி கால் பண்ணுறான் சரத்துக்கு. தென் தே டாக் டு ஈச் அதர் அண்ட் சரண்யா வந்து வீட்டுக்கு வரான். ஸோ சரண்யா வந்த உடனே பார்த்திங்கன்னா வீட்டில் சில அமானுஷமான ஒரு செயல்கள் எல்லாம் நடக்கும். என்னாச்சு அதுக்கப்புறம், அதுதான் வந்து இதோட மிச்ச கதை. டிரெக்டர் ஒரு நல்ல ஒரு கான்செப்டை எடுத்துகிட்டு வந்திருக்காங்க. ஒரு பழைய காலத்து கான்செப்ட் தான், பட் யூனோ ஒரு நீட் வே ஆஃப் ப்ரெசன்டேஷனாக இருந்தது மூவியை பார்க்கும்போது. டைரக்டர் இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் அந்த காஸ்டிங் மேலே கொஞ்சம் கான்சென்ட்ரேட் பண்ணியிருக்கலாம். ஏன்னா அது வந்து சில முக்கியமாக சரத்ங்கிற ஒரு மெயின் கேரக்டருக்கு அவ்வளோ ஒரு உயிர் கொடுக்கலையோ அப்படின்ற ஒரு சில ஃபீலிங்ஸ். ஏன்னா ஒரு சில எக்ஸ்ப்ரெஷன்ஸ்லாம் ரொம்ப டவுனாக இருந்துச்சு. ஒரு சில ஷார்ட்ஸ் நல்லா இருந்தது. அதில் ஒரு கூஸ்பம் மூமெண்ட்ஸ், அந்த த்ரில்லருக்கு என்னென்னமோ அந்த மாதிரி. பட் ஆடியோ கொஞ்சம் கான்சென்ட்ரேட் பண்ணிக்கலாம். ஏன்னா சில இடத்துல ஆடியோ கொஞ்சம் லோவாக கேட்குது. சினிமாட்டோகிராஃபிக்கு ஸ்கோப் இருந்தது, which they could have done much better சொல்லலாம். With this, I rate SharathSaranya at 2.5 out of 5.
Now that brings us to the Filmy Bites foreign film of the week. And this week's foreign film is Tozu. Tozu is basically a Turkish documentary about stone carving and life of a stone carver. There isn't much storyline. This is about a stone which becomes a beautiful carving in the skilled hands of this carver. There is a lot to tell about this movie, but I personally suggest that you watch this movie and witness the beautiful process that it takes to carve a stone into a beautiful carving. Now moving on to the technicality of the film is written, shot, directed and edited by Shortfilm. The film is really a beautiful documentary to watch. It shows the procedure of how this beautiful art form is progressed. It also witnesses the level of hard work that one should have to master this art form. Camera and editing of the film are really decent. I really think that everyone should watch this movie, as this is a beautiful art form that should be appreciated by every one of us. To summarize, this is a beautiful documentary about a wonderful art form. I recommend everyone to watch this movie and appreciate this wonderful art form. With that note, I rate this movie a 3-star in our show. All the best.
Tozu. Tozu is a documentary of a person who is making arts through shells which are being collected in the seashores. What are the difficulties which are being there he faces in his business life is the entire concept of this documentary. The documentary gives us a lot of scope and knowledge about this particular art, which is diminishing, I would say, at this particular point which we are talking around. There are very few people who are practicing it right now, and thanks to the director who has taken such kind of concept and making the audience to know that these are still alive. The way it was visualized and shown to the audience was so professional enough. So I would thank the entire crew who has worked on this, and they justified the message which needs to be conveyed out. With this, I rate this documentary 3.5 out of 5. Good luck.
Now that brings us to the end of the show, guys. You can see all these movies that we just reviewed by hitting the link given in the description below. Do watch all these movies and write to us what do you think about these movies. And if you are a filmmaker and wants us to review your movie, all you have to do is get into our description below, hit one of our social networking sites, inbox us your film link along with a poster, and write to us that you want us to review your movie in our show, and it'll be done. Constantly talk about filmmaking, we share our works, we get our reviews, we talk to a lot of like-minded filmmakers, we upgrade our skills, and a lot more fun we have there. We would really appreciate to have you with us. To become a member of our WhatsApp group, all you have to do is just go into our description below where we have given an invitation link. Hit that invitation link and you are part of our WhatsApp group. Now with that note, till we meet next time with some wonderful filmmakers and their work that we are going to review in our show, this is me, Uday, signing off. Namaskar.